Feeling lost is often misunderstood as failure or lack of direction, but in reality, it appears when an old identity no longer matches who you are becoming. What once defined you starts to feel restrictive, even if it once felt safe. This internal friction is not a problem to fix. It is a signal of growth. When identity dissolves before the next one forms, disorientation is natural. You are not broken. You are between versions of yourself. An old identity can remain long after it has stopped serving you. Habits, roles, and self-definitions linger because they once provided structure and belonging. Letting them go feels destabilizing, as if you lost your ground. But what you lost was a container, not yourself. The discomfort you feel is not emptiness, it is space. Space where a more accurate expression of who you are is preparing to take form. When identity shifts, motivation often drops. What used to drive you no longer excites you, and the future feels undefined. This can create anxiety and self-doubt. But motivation is tied to identity. When the identity dissolves, motivation pauses with it. This pause is not laziness or failure. It is recalibration. Your system is withdrawing energy from outdated roles so it can reallocate it toward what truly aligns with who you are becoming. Feeling lost often triggers the urge to rush into a new identity. You want clarity, labels, or direction immediately. But forcing definition too early creates another mismatch. Identity needs time to reorganize from the inside out. This in-between phase is not meant to be productive or impressive. It is meant to be honest. Peace grows when you allow uncertainty without rushing to replace what has already dissolved. An old identity feels safe because it is familiar, even when it limits you. Letting it go removes predictable structure, which can feel like losing control. But control is not alignment. Alignment requires trust in internal signals rather than external labels. The discomfort you feel is not a mistake. It is the nervous system adjusting to freedom it has never experienced before. What feels like loss is actually expansion without a defined shape yet. As identity dissolves, comparison often appears. You look at others who seem certain, defined, or settled, and assume something is wrong with you. But certainty is not always truth. Many people cling to identities that no longer fit because they fear this empty phase. You are not behind. You are early in a transition others may be avoiding. Feeling lost does not mean you failed. It means you refused to stay where growth had already ended. Losing an old identity can create emotional numbness. You may feel neutral, disconnected, or flat, and assume something is wrong. But numbness often appears when the system pauses emotional investment in what no longer fits. Energy is being conserved, not lost. This quiet phase allows outdated attachments to dissolve fully before new meaning forms. Feeling less does not mean you are empty. It means you are between emotional structures, allowing space for a more authentic alignment. During identity transitions, the mind often searches for meaning in the past. You replay old roles, achievements, or labels, hoping to feel grounded again. But grounding no longer exists there. What once gave you purpose cannot regulate who you are now. This does not erase your past. It completes it. Meaning is reorganizing internally, not disappearing. Staying present without clinging allows the next identity to emerge organically instead of being copied from what already expired. Feeling lost often comes with guilt. You may think you should be doing more, deciding faster, or knowing what comes next, but pressure delays alignment. Identity cannot be forced into clarity. It forms through lived awareness, not urgency. This phase asks for patience, not performance. The moment you stop demanding answers, subtle direction begins to surface. What feels like stagnation is actually integration happening below the surface, preparing coherence before movement resumes. When the old identity dissolves, direction feels unavailable. You may question your choices, values, or sense of self. This uncertainty is not regression. It is space clearing. The system is releasing attachments that once dictated decisions automatically. Without those filters, direction must now arise from deeper alignment. This takes time. Trust that clarity is not absent. It is reorganizing quietly, waiting for enough internal coherence to guide your next step without forcing. This phase often feels invisible to others. From the outside, nothing seems to be happening. Inside, everything is rearranging. Old motivations are losing charge. New ones have not activated yet. This gap can feel uncomfortable because it offers no validation. But inner restructuring is never loud. It works in silence. Allow yourself to be unseen for a while. What stabilizes here will support a more authentic direction that does not collapse under pressure later. Many people try to escape this phase by filling time with distractions, plans, or constant self-improvement. But movement without alignment creates exhaustion. This space is not meant to be optimized. It is meant to be respected. Stillness allows emotional residue from the past identity to fully discharge. When you stop trying to fix the feeling, it naturally completes itself. What remains is not confusion, but a quieter readiness for direction. As this phase deepens, sensitivity increases. You may feel more affected by noise, expectations, or superficial conversations. This is not weakness. It means your internal compass is recalibrating. Old tolerances no longer apply. What once felt acceptable now feels draining. Pay attention to what exhausts you versus what quietly steadies you. These signals are early indicators of your next alignment. Direction begins as a felt sense before it becomes a decision. Eventually, the discomfort begins to soften, not because you forced answers, but because your system finishes releasing what no longer fits. This is how real clarity returns, quietly. There is no dramatic breakthrough, only a subtle sense of readiness. When direction appears, it will feel calm, not urgent. Trust that what emerges from this phase is not a replacement identity, but a more integrated expression of who you have become. If you are here, it means you did not run from this quiet phase. You allowed it to unfold without forcing conclusions. That choice matters more than you realize. Integration only completes when you stay present long enough for it to finish its work. The clarity you are waiting for is forming beneath awareness. Let it arrive in its own rhythm. When movement returns, it will feel grounded, coherent, and aligned, without needing explanation. After long periods of internal silence, the first signs of direction often feel fragile. They are not loud ideas or bold plans. They are subtle shifts in what feels tolerable, meaningful, or draining. This is why rushing destroys alignment. If you move too fast, you override these signals. The system needs slowness to recognize truth. Respect the pace. What emerges gently tends to last longer than what arrives through pressure or urgency. You may notice that certain paths no longer trigger excitement or fear, only neutrality. This is a sign of completion, not failure. Emotional charge fades when a lesson is integrated. The mind often misreads this as emptiness, but it is resolution. Nothing is wrong with you for not wanting what once consumed you. That chapter has finished delivering meaning. What comes next will activate a different part of you, one that requires this calm foundation. During this phase, comparison becomes especially toxic. Watching others move faster can trigger doubt about your own timing. But alignment is not synchronized. Your system is solving different variables. If you rush to match external momentum, you inherit paths that do not belong to you. Stay anchored in your process. The quiet you are in now is customizing a direction that fits your internal structure, not someone else's timeline. Many people abandon this phase moments before it completes. They mistake discomfort for danger and escape into familiar patterns. But staying slightly longer changes everything. Integration requires endurance, not force. The urge to leave is often the final test. If you can remain without grabbing certainty, the system resolves itself naturally. What follows is not confusion, but a stable inner orientation that does not collapse under external pressure. Notice how your relationship with time shifts here. The future feels undefined, but the present becomes more vivid. This is not accidental. Presence is the ground from which authentic direction forms. When you stop projecting ahead, clarity organizes behind the scenes. Time is not being wasted. It is being recalibrated. What emerges later will feel timely because it was built in real awareness, not in mental anticipation. As integration stabilizes, you may feel less reactive. Situations that once demanded immediate response no longer pull you. This neutrality is strength, not numbness. It shows that identity is no longer fused to external validation. You are no longer proving, chasing, or resisting. You are listening. From this state, decisions become simpler because they are not compensating for unresolved emotional loops from the past. Eventually, direction returns as coherence, not excitement. You will recognize it by how little inner resistance it creates. There is no rush, no adrenaline, no need to convince yourself. It simply makes sense. This is how alignment feels after recalibration. Calm does not mean small. It means sustainable. What begins from this space may look quiet at first, but it carries endurance instead of volatility. You may grieve the intensity of your old identity, the highs, the urgency, the sense of being needed. This grief is natural, but intensity is not depth. What replaces it is something steadier, less dramatic, more real. The system is choosing longevity over stimulation. Allow yourself to mourn what energized you before. Mourning clears space for what will sustain you without burning you out. When action finally resumes, it will feel different. You will move without forcing momentum. Effort will be present, but friction will be lower. This is the reward of staying through the empty phase. Movement aligned with integration feels grounded. It does not need constant motivation. It carries its own quiet propulsion, built from coherence rather than pressure. If you stayed through this message, it means you are allowing a real ending to complete. That matters. Integration finishes only when witnessed. Do not rush to define what comes next. Let direction arrive with calm certainty. If this phase resonates, write "I stayed" in the comments. Naming presence reinforces it. And if this journey reflects where you are, stay connected. More clarity unfolds when endings are honored fully.